Nepal is on fire and the internet is buzzing. Is India next? On September 8th, Nepal's streets exploded with angry Gen Z's protesters. The known reasons: corruption, unemployment, inequality, and the government's shocking decision to ban almost every major social media application. But what if there's more beneath the surface? Some analysts are pointing to hidden networks and foreign fundings and a similar playbook used earlier in protests in Bangladesh and Hong Kong. And now the question everyone is whispering: could this kind of uprising happen next in India? So stay tuned. In this video, we'll cut through the hype, break down the facts, and reveal the dangerous patterns repeating across South Asia. Before we start our video, there's a small request. 99% of viewers have not subscribed to my channel. So if you also like to debunk and clarify the facts around major geopolitical and macroeconomic events, please like and subscribe to my channel. That will help me. Thank you. So Nepal's economy is among the world's most fragile. Out of the 30 million population in Nepal, 1 in every 5 Nepalese youth is unemployed. So in corruption index, Nepal ranks 107th out of the 180 countries worldwide. But here's what really set things off. A wave of viral social media posts exposed politicians and rich Nepalese kids flaunting luxury cars, designer brands, and 5-star vacations, while the ordinary youth struggled for food and jobs. The hashtag Nepo Kids and Nepo Babies exploded. Suddenly, the wealth gap wasn't just a statistic, it had a face, and it was everywhere. Then came the government's extreme step of a total ban on every other social media app in Nepal, be it YouTube or Instagram.
Thousands of young people outraged over a ban on social media apps like Instagram, Facebook.
Overnight, Nepalese lost their voices and their livelihoods. Creators lost their income. Even Nepalese people living abroad were cut off from their friends and families at home. For many, it felt like someone had actually taken the life out of them. So that was the final spark. On September 8th, Kathmandu erupted. In just days, dozens were dead, hundreds injured, and the capital was on fire. By the end, not just cabinet ministers, but even Nepal's prime minister was forced to resign. Now, amid this chaos, an NGO named Hami Nepal took charge and responsibility for this mass-scale protest. Now, with this name, Hami Nepal started a series of theories and social media posts. So basically, certain foreign linkages were found of the mentors and backers of the NGO group that made people to ask, was the protest homegrown or part of something bigger? And these claims go one step further when they ask that something similar can happen in India. But as you know, we'll not simply jump to conclusions and look at these claims one by one to see what actually holds water. So first of all, critics argue that protests of this scale do not just materialize out of thin air. They need funding, coordination, and even international media coverage. So this is where the NGO Hami Nepal comes in. So this is well documented that the protests were coordinated and facilitated by this NGO group. This throws the first set of red flags in the protest. So the red flag is around Hami Nepal's mentors and the funding which it received. So Hami Nepal's website documents the fact that out of the fundings received, Deepak Bhatta and Sulabh Agarwal were the two prominent backers of the NGO. Now, Deepak Bhatta, who is the chairman of the Infinity Holdings, was accused in 2022 of corrupt arms deals with an Italian organization. Sulabh Agarwal of the Shankar Group was arrested in 2020 around COVID for black marketing thermometers. Another name which comes is of Dr. Sanduk Rohit, a world-renowned eye surgeon and Magsaysay Award winner, also listed as a mentor. So now here's the catch, that the Magsaysay Award is linked to the Rockefeller brothers, which is tied to the US strategies around Cold War and its foreign affairs. So critics in South Asia often say that this award is often given to prominent figures who secretly act for US vested interests. So the allegation goes, is the Hami Nepal group steered indirectly or directly by Western interests? Although we cannot deny the fact that mentors and backers of the Hami Nepal group were shady and had connections to Western powers like Italian arms dealers and Rockefeller families, but there's still gaps in this logic. See, being corrupt and having shady donors is one thing, but being a Western proxy is another. So there's no direct proof that Hami Nepal received CIA or US government funding. In fact, its official website shows corporate donors like Coca-Cola, Mulberry Hotels, Time Pharmaceuticals, and even Al Jazeera. And here's the interesting fact that Hami Nepal has got huge domestic support too, like local music bands, actors, and youth leaders have backed it. So yes, there are red flags, but there's also transparency. At best, we can say that the line is not clear but blurred. Now there's another popular theory around the US diplomat's visit to Nepal. So here first we are talking about US Assistant Secretary of State Mr. Donald Lu, who visited Nepal in December of 2024 for youth and environmental meeting. And US Ambassador Dean R. Thompson, who met Kathmandu Mayor Balen Shah in February of 2024 to discuss IT training. So on social media, these visits are painted as signals of US involvement. But here's my thinking. So yes, the meetings happened, but there's no solid proof as to establish this fact that these meetings happened to fund the protest. See, Dean R. Thompson is a US ambassador and he's traveled across Nepal, so we cannot simply link his travel plans to mishappenings in Nepal. I mean, at this point of time, these coincidences can be given a place in theory and not fact. So let me know in the comments if I'm missing something here. Now, as you know, Hong Kong was also hit with a similar protest in 2019. So millions of young people hit the streets against a new extradition law, and it turned into the largest protest movement in Hong Kong's history. Here also, the media and the critics suspected that the NGOs which backed the protest, like the Civil Human Rights Front and the Human Rights Monitor, were supported indirectly by foreign agencies like the National Endowment for Democracy. And now, what is NED? NED is a US-funded organization meant to promote democracy worldwide. So supporters in the US call it pro-democracy, while critics in Asia especially call it a tool used by US for implementing its foreign policy. Now here I do feel that when NED is involved, then there is US involvement also. So in that sense, if direct linkages are established of the funding of the protest by NED, then somewhere it establishes the fact that the US was also involved in the Hong Kong protests. However, I could not find any direct funding linkages. If you found something, do let us know in the comments. One gap here was that all the media channels and news that I could find were pro-China, like Asia Times, China File, Congressional Executive Commission on China. I mean, independent bodies were not making these claims. Now let's also fast forward to Bangladesh in 2024.
The movement we've witnessed in Bangladesh over the past month is being...
What started as student anger over unemployment and unfair exams quickly spiraled into a full-blown anti-government movement. So again, whispers started of international NGOs, foreign media, maybe even diplomats were stoking the flames in Bangladesh. Fact checkers later said there's no hard evidence though. Now here's something that actually works against the hidden hand theory in Nepal. So today, after the resignation of the Prime Minister, Nepal's political groups are deeply divided about who should lead next.
The violence, but now the divisions amongst the young protesters are out in the open. There is simply no consensus as to who can be an acceptable candidate to be the interim leader.
So if there was a single foreign force pulling the strings, then wouldn't we have a clearer direction and a unified front? Instead, we are seeing local fronts fighting for power, which suggests the movement is still, at its core, a Nepalese movement. To conclude, I would say whether or not Nepal's uprising was fueled by foreign or hidden powers, there is a clear pattern from Hong Kong to Bangladesh to Nepal. The pattern is that first, people are already unhappy with corruption, nepotism, inequality. Second, that there are weak institutions that fail to check the abuse of power. And third, and the most important according to me, is the youth, which is restless. So when these three combine, like people are unhappy, weak institutions, and the restless youth, then it creates the perfect breeding ground for external forces and who knows, even internal forces to step in and influence such a massive scale of protests. And that's the real danger that India should keep in mind. Because if we are strong on corruption and are able to employ our youth, then trust me, we won't have the time and energy to take to the streets in this way. The youth will be too busy building and not breaking. Now, India is of course not immune at this point of time. Corruption India ranks 96th of 180 countries on the Corruption Perception Index. So that's only slightly better than Nepal. If we talk about unemployment, youth unemployment in India has hovered between 17 to 20%, not far off from Nepal's 20% of youth unemployment again. Let's check education also. The education budget in India per student is really bad. So in India, per capita education or spending on per student is somewhere around 4,671 per person in many states. But in OECD nations, that is the developed nations basically, that figure is thousands of dollars. In fact, around USD $10,000. It means rupees 8 lakhs. That's a massive difference on the amount of spending we are doing on our students in India. So these facts like corruption, unemployment, and weak investment in education in India is actually dangerous. Add to it the institutions which are getting weaker in India day by day, like the Election Commission, the judiciary, these are getting weaker day by day in India. So institutions like the judiciary, Election Commission should be respectable and trustworthy. So for example, if the Election Commission has been blamed for vote manipulation, then it should come forward and prove its innocence, or if not, resign from their position. I mean, we had Thanos voting for us. Come on. Now this is pretty shameful, right? And one more thing, responsibility lies with us too. Protests are necessary in a democracy, but when it turns into violence, burning parliaments and killing innocents, the cost sets the nation back by decades. Just look at Bangladesh and now Nepal. So when I see these posts saying Nepal now, India next, my answer is clear. No, India must fix its flaws through democracy and not destruction. So we vote, we debate, and we protest peacefully, but we don't burn our own homes. Thank you.